Hello, I'm Evan.
And I'm Paul.
And we're members of the Gulf Coast Spirit Society. And today we're going to be tasting Buffalo Trace store pick from Longhorn Liquor here in Beaumont, Texas. Paul, tell us about Buffalo Trace.
So, Buffalo Trace, the bourbon, is the namesake bourbon of the Buffalo Trace Distillery. Probably, at this point, the most famous bourbon distillery in the world. But the product is roughly about an 8-year-old small batch, and this is a single barrel of that. So that Longhorn picked for their store.
What makes this different from the standard Buffalo Trace is that this was chosen out of a sample or a handful of barrels that were sent to Longhorn, and they chose from them. And I think this one, I remember, I think it comes from Warehouse K, and which, you know, is known for producing some good bourbon. So let's see what it's all about.
Yeah, because, you know, the normal, like I said, is a small batch, so it's blended, you know, out of a bunch of single barrels to fit a certain profile. And so, you know, getting a single barrel may give you some variation over the standard bottling.
Yeah, so, I mean, I've heard different ideas about what a store pick is, you know, as far as are they off-spec barrels or are they like honey barrels, and I really don't know. I'm sure every distillery has its method to assigning barrels to be part of the single barrel program, but I don't really know if Buffalo Trace does that or not.
Honestly, I think with every distillery it's a little bit of all of that. I think they just pick good barrels, and then, you know, with the samples sent, let the store decide for themselves what they want.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you and I have been in on a good handful of store picks, and a lot of times you'll have a really good representation of that standard profile, and then you have some off-profile barrels. And
yeah, and I know you and I have gone into some lengthy discussions about, you know, what we would prefer. Like, personally, I think a private barrel should be the best possible representation of that profile that you can get, and I know that you disagree with that.
I generally, as long as it's good, obviously, I prefer something that's a little bit off profile, that's a little different, more interesting, than just kind of an amped up version of the normal profile. Just kind of, you know, something to kind of set it off as something unique.
This kind of just restarted, right? There was a little time during this year of 2018 that stores weren't getting to pick their private barrels.
From my understanding, TABC wasn't letting any distillery send samples out to the field. So if you wanted to try from samples during that like shutdown period, a rep had to physically bring them for you to try. So any distillery that didn't want to go through those lengths had to just, you know, if you wanted a barrel during that time, you just had to be sent something.
You'd be, just put yourself in their good hands.
Yeah.
To pick you a good barrel. Now, this one I know was chosen, I think, from 3 or 4 barrels. So let's get into it. So, to me, it kind of it tastes kind of like I'll say the nose, at least, seems to be like an amped up version of a standard Buffalo Trace. This does not seem like it's an off-profile.
No, it's just barrel. Kind of it's a lot of the same notes, but kind of like a deeper.
Yeah. It's very nice, man. It's got a little spice in it. Obviously, you know, a vanilla. Now, and that's something that I normally don't get in this concentration from a standard Buffalo Trace. To me, regular Buffalo Trace, as solid of a bourbon as it is and a extremely good value for the price, always seems a little thin for me. And this is bottled at 90 proof, so it's not super high, but it's respectable. And but I've always found it just to be a little light for me.
Yeah, I mean, whenever you're used to drinking barrel proof bourbons a lot, whenever you go back down to 90,
Yeah.
Because I feel that way sometimes whenever I go back to Weller 12. The 90 will feel a little thin, but then if you just keep drinking some 90 proofs, or if you're not used to proof, it's great, and it feels it may even feel like too much proof sometimes. That's why a lot of people add ice or some water, but I mean, their standard product is a go-to recommendation of mine, and I think yours also.
Yeah, definitely.
It's just a really good solid bourbon at a great price. I mean, often you can find it on the shelves cheaper than the same size bottle of Jack Daniels. And I mean, if you're going to compare those two bottles at the same price point, I mean, there's a no-brainer to get this. It's double the age and exponentially better flavor.
Yeah, I hear that it's been like between 6 and 8 year old or something like that.
Yeah, no, I want to say they say it's 8.
It's 8 years old. It's not stated on the bottle, but
no,
it's kind
but it's generally anytime you talk to a rep or anything, they say it's 8.
And these days, 8-year age stated anything is in bourbon is going to be considered a premium.
Yeah,
bourbon.
for around about $25. Yeah, you can't beat that at all.
Yeah, now that it's opening up a little bit, I'm getting a little bit more like brown sugar than I'm used to getting from a regular Buffalo Trace. And Buffalo Trace to me has always been kind of more of a vanilla bomb versus the heartier flavors of
the brown sugar, and I get a little kind of soft baking spice, not like in your face baking spice like you get with like Wild Turkey or something, but
I get a little bit of that, maybe a little molasses. It's very nice, man.
Yeah, it's definitely a good step up from the normal Buffalo Trace nosing profile.
Doubt.
Yeah,
no doubt. Well, let's taste it. Yeah.
Nice rush of flavor there. Yeah, a lot of the flavors from the nose, like caramel, vanilla.
Yeah, they definitely carry through the palate.
That's got a long finish on it.
Yeah, it does. What I like, this is to me, it's a little fruitier in the finish than I'm used to from a Buffalo Trace, which I really like.
Yeah, I am getting a little bit of that fruitiness, like kind of on the front of your tongue. Yeah,
almost
that's
like
interesting.
like a fruit cocktail or something.
Yeah, it's like a sugary sweetness.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah. Oh, now then go back to the nose. I get a little bit more spice. Remember those baking spices you were talking about?
Yeah.
Interesting, because it's not like a rye spice, and I know that this is a rye bourbon versus a wheater bourbon, which is mostly what Buffalo Trace is known for these days. It's their wheaters. But I'm not getting a lot of rye spice in this.
Well, their the rye side of their mash bill is fairly low compared to some of the other distilleries.
Now, do you know if this is their higher rye or lower rye?
This is
it's a mash
bill
right?
1, and I'm pretty confident it's 10% rye for mash bill 1.
Now
I'd have to go back and look.
Too.
But
now the oak is starting to hit me in the
yeah, there's a little bit on
finish.
that finish. Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's actually
pretty complex.
Yeah, it is.
Buffalo Trace.
Absolutely.
Again, the price point is.
I really like that little fruity finish.
It definitely has. You can smell that mash bill 1 family whenever you're.
Yeah.
Whenever I was drinking it just then, I could, the whole Eagle Rare and E.H. Taylor they all have that kind of common nose to them, I find.
Yeah. To me, it's a little more reminiscent of that 10-year experimental collection I had that had the French oak heads on it. Without as much of that French oak spice, but I can definitely see the resemblance in that, and that's, oh man, it just keeps transitioning, man, and it's pretty complex.
See, and I always like, out of their core range, I know A lot of people really like Eagle Rare, but I've always liked regular Buffalo Trace more than Eagle Rare, just because I guess the profile is a little bit more to my liking. You know, it is getting a little more spice on the nose after it's kind of opening up.
Definitely. You know, and I've never been a huge Eagle Rare guy. I've had some of their store picks, and even those have been they've been hit or miss for me. But I don't think I've ever had a bad Buffalo Trace. You know, it's there've been some that you know are probably the same quality as the standard, just a kind of a different profile.
Yeah.
But this one's definitely a step up from the standard profile.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. I mean, this is possibly
easy to drink. You're getting a lot of vanilla. You get that brown sugar, you know, real typical bourbon flavors, and then you get that nice little fruity, oaky finish that works really well.
Yeah, I think. I think this is definitely probably one of my favorite store picks of Buffalo Trace I've tried. It's it's just got a lot more complexity than I normally have experienced with Buffalo Trace, and that, you know, and that's just saying the step up from it. I'm not saying the normal Buffalo Trace isn't complex, but this is definitely turned the volume.
Well, I mean,
up.
I've always thought of a standard Buffalo Trace as kind of like like an all-purpose. You know what I mean? Where it's not made to offend anybody. It doesn't have any sharp flavors just kind of shooting out of anywhere. It's kind of right down the middle. Tastes like bourbon. Works good in cocktails. Works good neat.
I definitely think it is for sure one of the best Buffalo Trace store picks I've ever had. There's so many flavors. I mean, a lot of it is normal Buffalo Trace amped up, but there's different unique flavors that you don't get in the normal blend, and it is fantastic.
Yeah, I really like it, man. So this Buffalo Trace store pick from Longhorn Liquor, and this is really good.